Hi everyone, it's Carrie again. So today we're going to have more fun. I've been hitting a lot of heavy topics lately, so I wanted to go back to something that actually makes me laugh, and that was when I was learning how to drive. So I got my permit at about 15 and a half, which is, a decent time frame, and I had to renew my permit at least once because of the vehicle situation in my home. Um, when I first learned how to drive, we had this tiny little, I think it was a Ford Escort, and it was a stick shift. So I did have to learn how to drive a manual, which was challenging with the clutch and everything. I did learn how to do that, blessing. I don't think my brother and sister ever had to. They had automatic transmissions by their time. But I was learning how to drive a stick shift, and managing the two of them was a little bit of a challenge. So I remember this day, my mother took me out driving, and as we were driving, we're about a mile away from home, and in front of us is this manure truck. And we're coming along, and my mom's going, slow down, downshift or whatever. So I was like in third shift because we were on country back roads and, downshift in a second. And which I was trying to do, but I ended up hitting the gas instead of the clutch. So we like bolted forward into this, right to the back of the manure truck. And my mom, I remember just grabbing everything. And, for some odd reason, I don't know, grace of God, I was able to maneuver it down into second and hit the brake and we stopped. It didn't shut off or anything. So I was I clearly was doing, everything right, but got it down to, a speed where we were like right on his bumper, but we were going the same speed as this manure truck. Almost ended up running right into it though. And my mother was like, that's it. I'm never taking you driving again. Oh my gosh, all I could picture, I laughed the whole rest of the way home, was just my first accident covered with shit. Like, in a way, with the history of my life, it seemed so natural. Like, wow, that would figure. Go me, full of shit. But anyway, my mom's panic was probably the funniest thing ever. Then it came down to time. I wasn't ready to get my license yet, or my parents weren't going to let me because they said, "You'll fail the test. You don't know how to run this, stick shift well enough to pass a driver's test." So they renewed. I had to renew my permit. My father happened to be coming home off of the road, and I was unaware. I was in school, and all of a sudden I got a call to the office, and my dad said, "We've got to renew your license today, or your permit today, or it expires." So mom said I have to run you over there. It was in the winter, and it was a really icy, wintry, yucky day. So the roads were very icy. We had to drive an hour to the nearest place to be able to renew my permit. And I thought, oh, this is going to be a lot of fun. But I was getting out of school. So for me, I was like, okay, whatever, let's go. So we get in the vehicle and we go. We get halfway over there. And I realized my permit's at home. I didn't, why would I take it to school with me? But it didn't even dawn on me. So we got halfway there and I went, I don't have the permit. Are we going to need that? My dad goes, absolutely, we're going to need it. So he was furious with me because imagine when he came home from off the road, he usually had time to work on his semi, do some minor things, and he was back out on the road. So he did not have a lot of time to be driving his kids an hour someplace to renew their permit and back and still get all of his stuff done. So he was wicked angry. Slams on the brake, we as he's about to turn around and stuff, we lose control of the vehicle. Well, I shouldn't say, he was a stock car driver in his younger days, so he knew how to drive a vehicle very, very well. Um, and as the vehicle seemed like it was going out of control, he was able to get it back under control, and we were got turned around and we were going back home. And I remember just holding on to everything. The irony really of that was the way I scared my mother with the manure truck. karma came back and bit me, and my father was able to dish out that karma by scaring me on these icy roads. So I was terrified the whole next half an hour, all the way back home, got my permit, and then we had to drive another hour there and an hour back. So the irony of me thinking driving my mother back into the back of a manure truck was funny, um, caused me 2.5 hours of terror. So remember, when you think it's what's happening to somebody else is funny when they're going through trauma, that karma will come back to get you. And it wasn't so funny anymore because I do remember thinking about that moment. Anyway, my father, was furious with me the whole rest of the day. I think he left that night or the next morning, and that was all I had to deal with. So life went on. Right before I was about to go take my driver's test, we had it all scheduled. My father happened to be home that weekend as well, and he had brought, the driveway, the same kind of car. It was a Ford Escort, but it was automatic. And so then they took me driving in that second use the automatic. I thought, man, this is a breeze. This is so easy. To this day, I can still drive a stick shift, though. I don't think I was that bad. I probably would have passed the test, but my dad did go out and buy this small, reasonably priced automatic vehicle for me to take my test. I took the test and passed it right away. I ran into my sister 4 years later. I think she had to take her test 3 or 4 times before she passed, and she learned how to drive in an automatic. So I never let her drive me anywhere because she's a bad driver. Um, anyway, I did pass my test on the first try. The vehicle lasted about 3 years. I ended up being allowed to take my brothers and sisters to school and run errands and everything with the vehicle. And then when I got a job after I graduated high school, they did let me use it to go to my day job. Then I got a second job. So I had to go into town, where my first job was. It was a little out of town in a city nearby, which is about a 20-minute drive away. So I drove 20 minutes to work every day, 20 minutes home. But then there was another job a couple miles down the road, and I took that working evenings. Well, the first night I was supposed to start at that job, and I was going for orientation, it was really bad weather, and there was black ice on the road. So you couldn't really tell there was ice, but you knew because it was drizzling and freezing immediately to the road that there was ice. I was driving with caution. As I was driving down this road I was right in front of the building I needed to go to. On the right side of me was a semi. There's 4 lanes of traffic, basically. So on the right side was a semi, and there was me. Then there was, in the opposite lane of traffic, coming a car and then a pickup truck. So I'm driving along, and I feel my vehicle swerving. And I realize, oh, I'm going to go right under the trailer of the semi. That's right where I was. I was about to go under that trailer. And I did hit the brakes, which you shouldn't do on black ice. And I don't know, though, if I turned the wheel or what I did with that, because it happened so quickly. And all I could remember was, don't go under the semi. For some odd reason, my vehicle, I remember it sliding completely across the other lanes of traffic. The car that was coming had gone past. The pickup truck saw this coming. He saw this accident waiting to happen. And so that guy was able to get control of his pickup and stop it. And so as I drove across, I ran right into the front of his pickup. Blessing, he only lost a bumper. The rest of his vehicle was fine. Mine was totaled, completely totaled. And we were literally right in front of the driveway where I needed to turn for my second job. So I ended up going in there so we can call the police. And I also tell him, I said, by the way, you might want to let my supervisor know I'm going to be late. Well, they rescheduled me to start like 2 weeks later or whatever with a different crew of people. And because this is one of those seasonal jobs during like October through March, that you would work. And so my first night orientation there was quite interesting because they did have to point out that I did everything I could to try to make it my first night of work, and including losing my vehicle. So we did lose the vehicle. Then my father decided he would go help me get a new car, since I had 2 jobs. And I didn't get to pick up my car. I ended up with a Ford LTD, a big boat. And I was used to these little Ford Escorts. So unfortunately, That was going to be my car. That's what I was going to have to pay for. I didn't get any choices of what I wanted as long as my father was co-signing this loan. Sad part is, a few years later, I did get married, and he was an alcoholic, and the money was really tight. I was at that time just waitressing, third shift at a truck stop, and not really making enough money to manage everything between rent and vehicle payments and that. So I got behind on my vehicle payment because my father co-signed. He had to make arrangements, and he told me, he says, if you aren't going to be able to pay for it, bring it back. So I did. I took it back to him. I'm like, I can't make up these payments. And so I gave him the vehicle back, which he then gave to my brother. And my brother drove it for a really long time. And, that would cause a lot of family issues and problems because I didn't follow through on that loan. Unfortunately, I had no money, and was stuck in a very bad situation. I wasn't married yet, but there was a lot going on that my parents weren't aware of. No one was. I mean, when there was physical abuse and alcoholism, and if you ask a lot of women who have been physically abused and they're in relationships, one of the first things they're going to tell you is they don't want to go out and advertise to everybody what this person is doing to them because they want people to like this person. They love this person. Okay? When you love people, you will do everything you can to make them look good. They're not giving you that back, but you're trying. So you do not tell people about the abuse until you don't have any other choice, or until you choose to leave that situation. Then the abuse becomes, prominent, something that you have to talk about. The problem is people are like, well, you hid it so well, they don't want to believe anything you say. That's why I always recommend, if you're in an abusive relationship, don't hide it. Don't hide for them. Don't cover for them. I know you love them, but if you really love them, get them help. They need help. You can't help them by covering up what they're doing. And they don't love you if they're hurting you. Okay? I'm just a little word to the wise. I guess I learned the hard way too. I get it. I was there. I know what you're going through. But and it's male or female. It goes both ways. In today's society, we're all abusing each other. Trust me, I get it. But anyway, so years later, when I was living in a domestic abuse shelter, I did end up talking to my father because I had no money, no place to live. I was running for my life from my ex-husband, and I don't know, my father gets into this discussion with me that I owe him $30,000. I cost him $30,000. I was like, I don't even know how. I'd like an invoice for it because I didn't even realize my family had that kind of money that my father could even invest in those few years between 16 and 19. Yeah, okay, I owed you for that car. And, there were a couple other debts. They did pay my restitution for the shoplifting. They did buy that vehicle, which I thought was a family vehicle. I didn't realize I owed him back for that. Yeah, I did, owe him some back payments on that vehicle, but because I took it back, the loan's not mine anymore. He gave the vehicle to my brother. I would assume he paid for it. And apparently I owed the whole thing. Different stuff like that. But I don't know how that came to $30,000. And if I owe him that, I want the vehicle insurance money from when the car was totaled, because then he owes me that. So I don't know. I look at the whole thing as whatever. You want $30,000, I'll make payments. I'm not going to argue with you at this point. You deal with God on that. I'm not even going to get into it. But apparently that was from my learning how to drive as well. Ended up with a vehicle even that I didn't even want. Whatever. It had its highs and lows. Learning how to drive, counting on family. The one reason my mom wanted me to get my driver's license was that she no longer had to take us all over. I could take the kids to the doctors and dentist appointments. I could, pick them up after school. I could do all this running. So then my mom had even more freedom. So then I was even more of the parent to my siblings than I was before because now I was responsible to drive everybody. One of the things that happened when I got my permit was my brother, who was 8 maybe at the time, happened to be outside goofing around with this metal pole and he wanted to put the pole into the ground. So he had this big sledgehammer mallet that he was pounding the pole with. Well, he had his thumb on the top of the pole when he sledgehammered this and basically ripped his finger off when he did it. And he came walking in the house just white as a ghost and holding onto his hand, just blood just flying everywhere. And I was like, oh my gosh, what'd you do? So we called my mom into the room. And at this point, I'm like wrapping it because his finger's just hanging off of his hand. And my mom completely lost her cool and panicked and didn't know what to do. And I'm running it underwater and I'm wrapping it. And she calls the doctor and we got to get to the doctor's office. And she can't drive. So here I am with my brother driving us into town and, also holding his hand. And even in the doctor's office, I was like the mother. I was the one totally calm, in control. Another thing that I've always noticed about my life is, and this happened too when we almost ran into the manure truck, which made it funny for me. Panic situations, I don't panic. I'm like the coolest and calmest and most organized and structured I've ever been in my life. It's like my brain and my body go into automatic mode and everything is okay. I just don't have a panic instinct in me. It's like, nope, jump in. Like, I immediately know what to do. And where my mother never had that, and she'd freak out about everything under the sun. So the irony was that I was the calm, cool, and collected one, even learning how to drive, even helping my siblings learn how to drive, versus everybody else who freaked out and panicked. And for some odd reason, I still have that instinct in me today. But karma bit me, thinking it was funny, but it was still a reasonable experience, even with all the bad stuff that came after it. I look on it as one of my fonder, funnier moments in life. So, try not to run into shit trucks. Yeah, apparently my life has been a big pile of shit anyway. I almost ran right into one. So, take it from me. Laugh at the stupid things because that's what's going to get you through. My Bible verse, which I thought this was kind of proper for driving, comes from Exodus chapter 14, chapter 25. Anyone who doesn't know what Exodus is, it's when Moses led the Israelites to freedom from their slavery from the Egyptians. And it said, he caused their chariot wheels to swerve and he made them drive with difficulty. That sounds like me. So the Egyptians said, let us flee from Israel, for the Lord is fighting for them against the Egyptians. I was like, well, truly, the only reason I probably didn't hit the shit truck was because God was there protecting me, guiding, helping me not get away from Egyptians. But the Lord can make all kinds of things happen. And when the Egyptians were chasing down the Israelites, this was after they set them free, and then they decided they were going to chase them down and kill them all and recapture them. God didn't let them. He made driving difficult. The horses weren't going the right way. Their wheels were swerving and weren't working right in their chariots. They had all these difficulties trying to catch up to these Israelites that were on foot, mind you. These people were walking, and the Egyptians had horses and chariots, to move along at a much greater speed, but God slowed them down. I look at my accidents, not hitting the manure truck was God at work, not going underneath that semi and just hitting a pickup truck that was prepared to stop on ice. Seeing this accident was a blessing. So God does still to this day. We may not be horses and chariots. We might be in vehicles, but if we trust and give him the wheel, not saying take your hands off the wheel and literally let him drive through you. Um, God works through us. We're conduits of light for Him. And take those terrible things in life that happen and turn them into rays of sunshine. Find something about it to laugh at, like I did. Okay? Um, I'm not probably the best example in the world to follow, but if I can spread any sunshine, that's what I prefer to do. Have a great day. Share your funny experiences. How did you learn how to drive? What was your first vehicle? In the comments, I would love to know. Have a great day. Love you all. Bye.